Welcome, everybody, to a special episode of the Yalla podcast. My name is Alon,
I'm Elik.
and today we have with us again Manar. Welcome, Manar.
Thank you, guys. Great to be here.
So, Elik, you want to explain to our audience why we decided to do this special emergency episode?
Yeah, it's emergency episodes because of the horrors that happened in Syria. That, from what I understood, is still happening, and Manar will tell us now what he's been through in the last couple of days. But I think we, as many people, are like many other people with good intentions, are very confused. And unlike the situation in Palestine that us, like me and Alon, we feel we have some kind of clear picture of what's happening here. We are very confused. We don't know. And it feels like most of the media sources are biased with some kind of bias. And I must say that, like, media channels that I trust with the issue of Palestine, I don't trust in the issue of Syria. And it's an instinct. I don't know why, but I feel for some reason they're not going from the motivation of just seeking the truth. They have an opinion on the issue before they gather all the facts. And that's why we wanted to talk to you, Manar, because I trust you. I feel you're a genuinely good person. I know you were involved in you're a good person to ask because you were involved in the revolution against Assad. But as I know, you're not now pro the current government. I think like you're motivated by really love for your brothers and sisters and for the betterment of people. So, and you have contacts with people on the ground. So we wanted to talk to you to get a clearer picture. So maybe we start.
Maybe Manar, first remind our viewers who you are and a little bit of what we talked about in the previous episode, just so people have the context of where you're coming from.
All right, yeah, sure. So this is also how we got to know each other. My father was born in Jaffa, 1946. I was born in Latakia. And in 2011, I joined the revolution, the Syrian revolution, and I was a human rights activist from 2011 until 2013 in Syria. And we basically created different groups to stop the killing. First, it was from the Assad regime, and then it turned to be we stood against both sides. And then I had to flee for security reasons, and now I live in Germany. And this is basically a very short version of the past.
Yeah, so if people want to have more information about your involvement in the Syrian revolution and your life story, please go to a previous episode of the Yalla podcast where we had a very, very long conversation with Manar. Today we're going to try to keep things brief, which goes against every fiber of each of our beings, but we will try. Okay, so Elik, you want to ask Manar the first question and get us started?
Yeah, so we wanted to start from the present, what you have been going through the last few days. What is your contact with people on the ground, and then to understand the larger, broader picture. So can you just describe what have been going with you the last couple of days, and what's happening, and what do you know that's happening on the ground now in Syria? And then we will get the background of what happened in the last couple of days and the rest of the things.
All right, sounds good. So it started mainly last Thursday. Um, um, we started hearing news from the coast. I come from the coast. I come from a city called Latakia. It is the biggest city on the coast side, and it is also the city of the Bashar al-Assad. So I lived my life seeing his family the whole time. So the city is quite sensitive city, um, um, and it always had its special place in the Syrian history, at least the last 50 years. Um, and um, and to what we started getting, I know lots of people from the Alawite community. Bashar al-Assad he comes from the Alawite minority in Syria, which is like part of Muslims. And and what happened, because I am in contact with quite of people from Latakia, so naturally with lots of Alawite as well, lots of stories were popping up. And on Thursday night, on Friday, it was getting more and more clear that the Alawites are facing uh, what I called in that time an ethnic cleansing, based on the idea of how targeted they were. People were coming into the buildings. People, I'm talking about like armed gun uh, fighters are coming to the buildings, asking each person about their religion. Whoever is Sunni, they leave. Whoever is Alawite is getting executed. Those stories were rising more and more. Um, I on the media, on the international media, there was a bit of shyness talking about it. I felt very much as I was getting the news from the ground. I'm not seeing this heavy news being reflected even in like the mainstream Arabic media, such as like Al Arabiya or Al Jazeera. It was mentioned, but not in the gravity that it deserves. Um, so we started ringing the alarm. And what happened since then, every day we're basically collecting testimonies of people I know, of like people I grew up with, of our neighbors, of my school friends, and of different activists on the ground from different backgrounds. And um, now I'm not talking about what happened between, I'm just focusing on the civilians. Uh, by yesterday, the official number, which is documented name by name, was 1,383 people got killed within 4 days, 5 days.
Wow,
And
really? I
this is
heard I heard numbers in the low hundreds. You're saying that now it's like in four digits, the number of people who were killed.
it might rise to 5 digits. I'm
Fuck. Okay.
talking, I'm saying it might.
Fuck.
I'm
Okay.
talking like that's why what we received from the people we know on the ground was so alarming. Everyone I know knew at least like 10, 15 people who got killed. So it was a mass killing. Uh, and so far I'm still waiting. I didn't get the number, the full number today. Maybe it's not gonna rise much, but there are different stories on the ground, and definitely the videos that are coming up are showing what's might be even legally put as a ethnic cleansing. Um, and um, I lost contact with lots of people. I didn't know if they died or not. Yesterday, I got the news from them, and they were for the last 4 days, 5 days, up the mountains, hiding in the forest, in the bushes, and with their kids, with their families, basically. And lots of them had to go back because it became a life-threatening situation to stay without water, without food for 4 days, 5 days. So up the mountain itself, we're gonna get within the next weeks more news. And and also the testimony I got yesterday was on the way from up the mountain to down to the city of Latakia. The streets were basically full of dead bodies in some areas of civilians they knew. And so far, the vast majority of the civilians who got killed are Alawites. And you have groups who didn't even question who they're killing, but the vast majority of the groups who were doing the killings were basically targeting Alawites and mainly non-Sunnis. Yeah, this is what I can say. And of course, the testimony we got from Banyas, for example. Banyas is a small town near, also on the coast. The regime security, the Syrian regime security, is threatening people not to say who killed their kids or who killed their neighbors. Al Jazeera and Al Arabiya and BBC, I think, even got into on the ground, and they're asking Alawite people who what happened? Can you tell us? And they're saying, no, we cannot. So it's very much clear that no one is feeling safe. It's very much clear that there is threatening against never to say anything, which is basically something we lived before within the Assad time. Of course, when every time Assad's men committed massacre somewhere, everyone knew that you can never really talk about it. You would follow next. But the reports of blackmailing and threatening the people not to talk about who was killing their neighbors is 100% true. It is spreading from lots of people. We're getting this, and it is very much believable. Yeah, I'm sorry. Just one last thing.
No.
But we got involved the last days. Everyone was trying to smuggle their loved ones either outside of the country or outside of the villages, outside of the countryside, because in the city you've got lots of it's mixed. You've got everyone living together on the countryside. Everyone also is living together, but like the villages are little communities. You've got the Christian, you've got the Sunnis, you've got the Alawis, and all of them are right next to each other. Like for many, many years, they were neighbors. But so lots of people were trying just to find a way to get to the city. The vast majority were trying to stay wherever they are. But there was a massive effort from everyone to try to smuggle their people somewhere. And of course, I don't know how many thousands of people how many people we're talking about, but definitely thousands, if not tens of thousands of people left now Syria to Lebanon, the river, and the numbers are not clear. What I can fully say is clear. You've got 3 million to 4 million Alawites in Syria. That's almost, I cannot generalize, I cannot say all, but so far I didn't get any message saying that we will stay here. Everyone is saying we need to leave. How can we do it? And so on. At least from mainly like only the old people who cannot move anymore are just saying, yeah, we live here, we die here, this is our land.
Yeah.
But the rest are very much feeling they lost hope with the idea of this free Syria, which is going to be for all. Yes.
Oh. And do you think, you said ethnic cleansing, like, do you think there is a really intentional, like it's intentional thing to drive the Alawites out of the land? Like this is what the massacre was, this was the intention of the massacre to, because we know a lot of time in ethnic cleansing, this is what happened also in 48 here. You do few massacres and then you want to start driving up the population, like, and I wonder if this is what's going on.
It is difficult to say, but
Mhm.
if I just want to state the facts, this is how it looks like.
Mhm.
Reflecting on, for example, this is a far example, but nevertheless, or from far away, but nevertheless, in Myanmar in 2017, there was the Rohingya genocide. 25,000 people to 43,000 people got killed. And based on it, you've got 1 million people who left the country living in Bangladesh.
Yeah.
And so if you want to look there, yes, if you want to look in the history of Syria itself, within the Ottoman Empire time, there was a mass killing of the Christians. And based on it, you have now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, more Syrians outside of Syria than you have in Syria itself. The Christian population dropped heavily in 1920 to South America.
Yeah.
I think the numbers of Christians were 18% or the percentage of Syrians were 18%. The percentage of Christians in Syria were 18%. And after the massacres, after the Greek and the Armenian and the Sefo massacres, it dropped to 5 to 10%. So that happened. Historically, this happens. Now we are living the history where you see how people justify what happens in a way or another. So now if the numbers continue to climb, which most probably will, we're seeing basically history in the making.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Manar, I want to ask you, even before we start examining the intentions here and like what is the context of what's happening, I am still wondering who is doing this? And I heard conflicting reports of who are the people who are even committing these massacres. Are they people who used to support Assad, or are they people who are kind of part of the new government, or are they, groups that are unaffiliated, or is it a mix? Who is doing these things? And like not even a grand plan, but what kind of interests do they have, do you think?
So let's put, so like from before we start with what happened now, we can just like start from the beginning, from like the time where Al-Julani turned to Ahmad al-Shara and became basically the I don't know, the president of Syria to some
I want
whatever.
to admit my ignorance.
Yeah.
I thought until we spoke a couple of days ago that these were two different people. So
Al-Julani
this is how much we're all ignorant and misinformed about Syria, okay? And you know, there's this expression, explain it to me like I'm 5, okay? And maybe we need to do this before you even answer our more specific questions. Give us like a very, very simplified and broad picture of like the different groups in Syria and what is going on a very, very grand scale.
Okay, we can start with Al-Julani himself.
Yes.
Al-Julani he was born in Saudi Arabia. He's from Syrian parents, but he was born in Saudi Arabia. On one point, they came to Syria, and then in his 20s, he left his studies and he went to Iraq to fight. He got arrested very quickly by the Americans. He spent some years there. Then he left, and then he joined Al Qaeda, and then he basically didn't feel like he wanted to do something else. The Syrian revolution started in 2011, so he moved to Syria. He opened a new branch of Al Qaeda in Syria, called it Al-Nusra. And in 2012, Al-Nusra basically started committing massacres and mass killings against the Syrian army, the Free Syrian Army, which was fighting already the Syrian army. So that was just basically a group, an extremist group, coming to say it's not about, because in that time you had Syrian soldiers and you had Syrian soldiers who refused to fight Assad.
Hold on, Manar. Who are the Free Syrian Army? Who is this group?
Free Syrian Army it started in 2011. Syria has an army originally, and lots of soldiers didn't feel okay with killing their own people. So basically, they started leaving the army and going to different areas and creating the Free Syrian Army. And that was what it was called. And it was also in quite a mess. Also, they did some violations, but nevertheless, they had the intention to protect the Syrian people. That was their logo. Al-Shara came and he started fighting with the Free Syrian Army because he wanted to be the ultimate leader. And here I'm talking about Al-Julani. And then from Al-Nusra, he joined ISIS. From ISIS, later he didn't like them much, so he went into a different direction. And then he was wanted for the international community, and there was a bounty on his head of 10 million euros, $10 million.
Wow.
And it's just like, and that's why no one knew his name, which is Ahmad al-Shara. His name was Al-Julani. And then he changed the name of his group and became HTS. The whole history is a lot more complex, and there are lots of details that even experts take hours talking about it. This is just like a very brief hint. And then he took a province of Syria, the Idlib province, which is in the north, and he was a president of this province. And in this province itself, which hosted like 3 to 4 million Syrians. So it was big. And we saw there were protests against him. People were dying under torture in his prisons. And nevertheless, in last year, in December or in November, he started this campaign and he took over the Syrian army, and he became the president of Syria now.
Yeah, this is the time that we talked. The previous episode was a few days after this happened, that Assad fell and that Julani took over, right?
Right. So we already have a person with a horrific CV. becoming the leader of millions of people. So,
But somehow when he took power, there was people were talking about hope that maybe he changed, right? I remember there was a lot of that maybe he has a different path now. I don't know. That was
Yeah, Manar, you were already skeptical at this point when we talked, but you didn't tell us, yeah, he's going to be horrible. You said we'll find out.
yeah.
yes. And my hope was, like many others, was the idea that the whole international community is wishing stability in Syria. So we don't start a new refugee crisis. So we don't start, like, if Syria is not stable, the whole region is not stable. It's quite in the heart. Syria is between lots of different groups: Turkey, Israel, Iraq, Iran. A lot is happening. A lot of weight is being put on this small piece of land, relatively. And
Maybe it's wrong assumptions that they want stability. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Political situations, such as Turkey, is like Erdogan was struggling. He wanted to fix the refugee problem in his country because
Mhm.
it has like 4 million Syrians, more or less. Lebanon has a population of 3 million before, and now they have 1.5 to 2 million Syrians on
Mhm.
top. Iraq has plenty. Everyone is feeling okay. Europe, EU, is basically saying we cannot take any more refugees. We have our own problems. After all, Syrians created one of the biggest refugee crises that we're living in our lifetime, to some level, at least in the last few years.
Only
Yeah.
Israel didn't take any Syrian refugees in.
I know, and like it's so funny because like now when I'm talking to people about like where do you want to go, la la la, it's just like you look in every direction, but you never look south. It's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Which is understandable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe in this context, I have another question about Julani that interests me because there is like this debate of what kind of loyalties he has, and there is a claim that he has been like appropriated by the empire, and that now he is no more than a puppet of the United States and Western forces. How true do you think this is?
I don't know, and I'm not gonna. I don't think I can speak about this in this time. It is, for me, is way too. I don't know. It felt in the beginning he's a puppet of Turkey, and
Mhm.
so far it looks so. It's still a puppet of Turkey. Trump didn't like it from the beginning. He was giving statements that what happened in Syria is Turkish game, to some level. So like Trump's frustration was clear about Turkey's role and how Assad left. But in all honesty, this is very complex. What I can say, just based on if we just state the facts in relation to what's happening in Syria, Al-Julani from 2015, when he had his first public interview without showing his face, from 2015 until 2 3 months before December last year, he was speaking about the Sunni body. He wants to create a Sunni country, a Sunni land. And he spoke about it many times whenever he was with a big group of people. So it is that's why already lots of Syrians were criticizing him before he became president. Lots of people who were against Assad were saying, fuck, look, the person who's supposedly against Assad is speaking about a Sunni state in Syria, which is a failed project. Syria has like, I don't know, 30 to 35 different ethnic religious group, and it's like, this is not Sunnis, maybe are 60 to 65% of the population, and also he's basically also is going after the Arab Sunni. So he got like also problem with the Kurd Sunni, who's just like 4 millions or so. Unfortunately, I've been trying to get statistics about the percentage of Syrians now. It's very hard to get. So far I think it's not doable to have clear statistics, but so his language from the beginning was very much putting everyone out. And then when he took over Syria, the language was very different. It was just like, now we put everything we did before aside, and now we want to create a country, a state for everyone. We will take care of the minorities. He was basically trying to get the approval from the West. He was still in a fight with Russia to some level, so he was trying to get the approval from also the Arab world, from the leaders. And since they got in the presidential palace, since he got there, so little work was being done for the Syrian people. The vast majority of the work was for the countries outside. The best, and I give him that, the best person he got in his team is a foreign minister. And he is basically this, laughing person who's just basically also, as like, he was part of Al-Julani's group from 2015 or 2016. So I'm not saying he's a good person, but he is selling it nicely. Even when I watch it, I feel like, actually, I would love to have such a person really with us in the government, but I know as well this is fake and this is lies, just like too good to be true, based on what's unfolding now. Yeah.
But I also wanted to ask, many people, like from what I heard, what started it is that people from the Assad regime from before killed. Can you give me this background, and if it's true? Like, that's what I heard from other
Can you explain, Elik, again what you heard, because I'm not sure I followed.
I heard that the whole thing started when there was a moment that they, maybe I don't know exactly, but that they tried to disarm some group from the old Assad regime, and then that the old Assad regime committed massacre and killed like few hundred people, and then he turned back against the Alawites, and what happened there, and I don't know. Like,
yeah, it's similar. It's similar to what Zionists try to say, that there is a conflict here. So the question is always: is it a conflict, or is one group just trying to like destroy or expel another group?
Yeah. So that's my like, but I guess you're familiar with all the versions of the events, and you would explain it better. But you know what I'm talking about, right, Manar?
Right. So what this government did in December, they requested from everyone in Syria to give up their weapons.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the weapons only in the government's hands. And that was a good step. I believe that no one should have weapons in their homes, but nevertheless, I was skeptic because so far I don't trust this government. Without a constitution and like a written constitution, This is just like someone who's promising me, give me your weapon and you're going to be safe.
Yeah.
It's not how humans work. Like,
Yep.
story showed us something very different. But nevertheless, lots of Alawites gave their weapons. And I'm talking here about villages in the Alawites up the mountains and so on. Because definitely there was plenty of weapons, and definitely not everyone gave. Some are hiding for whatever might happen. I'm not saying this is just like 100% true, just what I think and what I heard rumors from here and there, and I think it is believable. And and of course, they requested this from the Druze and from the Kurds as well. And the Kurds and the Druze were like, back off, back off. We're just like, we have a long history against Assad, and we're holding our grounds. Just like you fix your shit, and we see. Like, we're not doing anything to you. So the Druzi people, for example, didn't allow the new government's forces to come even close. Because as well, al-Nusra, where Al-Julani was the leader, he has a very dark history with the Druze. They killed lots of Druzi people before. So Druzi
Mhm.
people are very much skeptic, and they feel like, no, no, no. But Alawites in Latakia had no really choice. So the deal was, you go, you give your weapon away, you say what you did, and you do this, I don't know, like a settlement, and then you leave. And when someone stops you, you just show them your settlement, and this is how we're gonna build the new Syria, and nothing will happen anymore to those people, etc., etc., etc. So lots of people did so, with the hope that all of us had, that this government will be um, pro human life. And now, in Syria, you've got also Assad's militias. You had Assad is still like one of the most criminals who went through which we one of the most horrific things that ever happened to Syrian people, and lots of Assad's militias are still everywhere. But are basically, you've got few people or some people who did so many massacres that they know they're not gonna live anymore if they catch them. So they were hiding in the mountains as well. And they were hiding in different places and waiting for the call to happen, because they're just like a walking dead person. And what happened on Thursday was basically they made a trap. Of course, the last 3 months were, every once in a while there was a story about Assad's ex-militias fighting with the new government's forces. But what happened on Thursday, they made a trap. The official story now, they've killed 150 people from the national security. And based on that, the streets or even government's propaganda started spreading. Assad might come back in power, and there
Mm.
the fight in Latakia. So suddenly there was this white call on Thursday night and on Friday to go for in the entire of Syria, in the mosques, to go and save Syria. And that turned very quickly to go to the coast and kill the Alawites.
Wow.
And um, what's what's also very much quite toxic, which has been happening um, from this government for the last 3 months since they came to power. They changed the personnel of every mosque, the imam of every mosque. I'm not sure if every, but definitely there are like a good percentage. and they replaced them with an imam from their ideology.
That's the government did?
That's what the government allowed.
Mm.
What do you mean? What are you implying here?
Because we don't have a government. What we don't have. It's when I say the government did, most of the, like, all government's personnel now, or government's fighters, or the Syrian army, you don't see anything but their eyes. No badge number, no nothing. Lots of them don't speak Arabic in the first place. You've got lots of Turkic, I'm sorry, from either China or different parts of Asia, or Russia. You've got lots of Libyans, Egyptians, Jordanians, from Turkey, from different places in the world, basically, working with the government. So it's not really a government. It was
A militia, how would you define it?
I would just divide extremist groups, and definitely not all, but definitely a lot. So, like, some Syrians also in it. And now we're gonna get back to the people who got killed.
Yes.
But in the mosques, lots of Syrians were complaining, hey, we don't see our imam anymore. Hey, suddenly we hear a different language in
Wow.
the mosques, because Islam in Syria is a Wahhabi Islam, or the Sunni Islam in Syria is a Wahhabi Islam. And the Wahhabi version of Islam is very much, it is also, like, quite common in this region, as is basically the version that allows you to live with a Christian and with a Jew, in a more or less without this, without this, like, idea of just like we need to fight. Just like they're our neighbors, and like, you have love. And this is how I grew up in Latakia. I grew up with lots of different religions around me, and it was definitely, it had its own issues like every community, but nevertheless not so much in your face. The Salafi kind of Islam, which is what Al-Julani comes from, and those people taking over the mosques are doing, is very much attacking other religions. Doesn't even like Sunni, even like they're not really the majority in Syria. It is a, like, small minority. It's taking over again. But maybe the Sunni majority now don't see it, but they will see it on one point. So far, everyone's still very happy Assad is gone, and they think that we are in power again. But the reality is very different. We have an exposed.
But like, so when people say like sectarian violence, it's not that Sunni people from themselves wanted to kill Alawites. It's this militias that some of them are not, doesn't even have anything to do with Syria, right? Or it's not neighbors coming killing their neighbors. It's not the situation.
It's rarely the case of a neighbor coming to kill a neighbor. The stories we get so far, neighbors are helping their neighbors. Like, Sunni neighbors are helping their Alawi neighbors to basically escape, or to hide them in their house, and so on. Not all. We have now, after 50 years of Assad, we have quite a division between Alawites and Sunnis. But the way they view it, at least some people, is just, it is Alawi versus Sunni. But the reason we were talking about what happened the last days with Assad and I started with the mosques. So already there was a building up against the Alawites, or against all non-religious people. And there were lots of campaigns who are basically calling for even al-jihad in different places. And we're talking about like massive campaigns with speakers in the middle of the streets, trying to give niqab, which is this whole black dress for even little girls. They separated, this government already separated in lots of parts of Syria. Women cannot sit in the front part of the bus. They have to sit in the back, so men don't watch them. If in some areas, if you walk with a woman, you need to have some identification that who this woman is to you. So it is building up. This is not what Syria is. And nevertheless, it's going. Now in Latakia, there have been few, what do you call them? Few times where there was a cheering, which was against the Alawites people. And I'm talking in Latakia here in the neighborhood where I come from, which is like a Sunni neighborhood. But also there are videos of the government's personnel, government staff starting these chants.
Yes.
Like, we're gonna kill the Alawites, we're gonna kill the Alawites also. So the government is allowing this to take place. It is building up, it is building up. And then you had the incident where Assad's regimes, ex-Assad regime's militias, went after the new government's army, killed different stories now, killed 150 people of them, and suddenly there was this mass call across Syria to go to the coast, kill Alawites. And this is how a whole week of bloodiness started. And we don't know when it's going to end because it still didn't finish. It got much less now, but nevertheless, the numbers will continue to climb. And the propaganda, the new Syrian government's propaganda, that some groups did some violations and killed some Alawite people, but the government's forces came and saved the day.
Yeah.
And now everyone is safe, etc., etc., etc.
They also called for the Alawites who escaped. They told them everything is safe. You can come back, right?
Right, which is like nonsense. That's just on the ground. There is not even one Alawite person I know who's saying, yeah, that's what happened. The people on the ground who saw what happened say very different story. The reality on the ground, of course, also it's like in videos of people who were with Al-Sharia in photos are basically documented killing Alawite people just for being Alawites.
Mm-hmm.
In the language, it's very clear. There is this now very heartbreaking video went viral. Sounds very wrong when you talk about such a video, but
Yeah.
been seen by millions and millions and tens of millions of the people in the world, which is very good. But it is for the new government's personnel after coming, taking three young men, Alawite young men, from their mom, while the mom is trying to keep them. And still they put them out and they execute them, and which was two sons of hers and her grandkid.
Wow.
And basically there is this conversation happening, and he's saying, hey, well, we killed them and we're gonna kill all of you Alavites, none of you will be standing. And she's saying to fuck off to his face, Fasharat, which is now Fasharat becoming quite a logo. I cannot say what exactly Fasharat is, but the closest translation would be in your dreams.
Fasharat?
Fasharat.
And it's becoming like because she's an old Alawite grandma and still like standing in front of militias with the guns and with her three sons or two sons and a grandkid shot on the ground.
Yeah.
And the most horrific part of this whole thing, if you track down what those sons or the people who died, what their writings was, we need to stand with the new government and we need to support them in order to build a new country. So it's basically, they were pro the new government. They
It's
were
tragic.
Yeah.
Just tragic.
And this is a video that came out. This is a video was shot by someone who's committing the crime to brag. This is a video, and they took photos while they're standing on their on the dead bodies. And the photos are also out. And of course, there were campaigns just about the videos. This is just like the videos that came out. Lots of thousands, if not thousands of mass killings took place now without being recorded. So we don't know what might, like, if you see one video horrific this way, that must have been like, there is a lot more horrific things that wasn't videotaped. And also in the city, in like different cities in Syria, there were campaigns of spreading this little bags for fasting. After fasting Ramadan, you get usually a bag with dates and a few things, to have some to break your fasting and eat. And on the bags were the Alawite person deserves to live peacefully in his own grave.
Oh shit.
And
this sounds like Zionist humor to me. This is the kind of energies that I feel from Zionists all my life,
It is definitely.
Yeah, it's like it's like these comments that we saw on this post that you shared, what you shared in your Instagram, Alon.
Yes. The kind of mocking, violent mocking from the powerful.
Yeah, exactly.
So what I would say possibilities are lots of, would just state based on my experience with Assad's regime. The people who died from the security, from the governments, might be also people who didn't want to join the fight. Usually those kind of regimes, they execute their soldiers who don't take part of the mass killing. That happened a lot in Syria. There is a chance this might have happened here. That's why even I feel sad for every soul that was like whoever who died. It's not clear what happened, but what's clear is what I just told you. Those are a series of facts that are not even debatable. Now, EU took them as a reality. Even the Syrian government acknowledged lots of them and trying to deny some of them, but nevertheless, it's so hard to deny it.
But you know what kind of hard for me and infuriates me in some level? That I see so many, let's say, Israeli left-wing guy, I just showed Alon a post, that like completely buys the Syrian government narrative that's like they that the massacre had stopped, that the government took over and it's safe, and they have good intentions. And
yeah, there was this agreement also that was signed like between the current Syrian government and the I think they're called the Forces for a Democratic Syria, right? There was this agreement signed, and it all looks very great on paper, but now I'm very, very skeptical about what it actually
yeah,
means, you know?
Well, that didn't last long.
Mhm.
Came out while the massacres were unfolding, um, and just like 2 3 days later, which yesterday, the new constitution is being out or got out, and it looks like it's gonna be they call it like a constitution project or
Mhm.
constitution draft, but it is the official. It is gonna be the constitution where we're gonna have it, and basically it's turning Syria into more or less caliphate. So Al-Shara. Now I will get to the Kurdish forces in a second.
Mhm.
Al-Shara now in the constitution is the president of Syria for the next 5 years, and this 5 years are the transitional phase. And he's going to be the president. He's going to be the prime minister. He's going to be the leader of the army. He's going to be the president of a third of the parliament, and he will assign the people in the parliament. And then they signed this piece of paper with the Kurds saying Kurdish people will be, or the Kurdish forces will be the democratic Syrian forces, which are the Kurds basically, which is basically I cannot, not all Kurds stands behind it. Definitely not. This is just like another military group, but it is a Kurdish military group. Because I know lots of Kurds who just like stand against them, and they also have a history which is not very nice or very bloody, definitely. So they signed with them that they're going to be together building a country, but then Al-Shara added this little part in constitution saying the security office, or yeah, basically the national security office, and he is the president of it, and this is basically the highest part. So you have the Syrian army, and which includes the Kurds, but then on top of it, you have the National Security Bureau office, whatever, and and he's gonna be the leader of it, and he's gonna hire 3 or 4 people with him in it, which definitely not gonna be Kurds. So basically, after he tried to add Kurds on papers to the government, he put a new branch on top of all to basically demolish whatever it is. So mainly now, and there is in the constitution no way whatsoever to question the president or to enforce law on the president.
Sounds very democratic to me.
Yes, very much. And of course, the religion of the president must be Islam. And the constitution is based on the Islamic understanding of the religion, or
Like Sharia law.
not Sharia. It's like this might be even worse than Al-Sharia, because Al-Fuqh al-Islami and I cannot say what Al-Fuqh al-Islami is, but Al-Sharia is kind of one, which is like everyone knows and no one really like. It got lots of problems to run a country in. But al-fiqh al-Islami, this can be, so for example, the Salafi part of Islam is, they have their own understanding. So you can apply even this on it, which is even more extreme than al-Sharia, for example. I
So
hope I'm
Fuqa
not.
allows the regime to do whatever they want, basically, they can say, yeah, this is according to Al-Fuqa, but they can like make up whatever laws that they
Yeah.
want. Is that what you're kind of implying?
What I'm saying, there is like in the Islamic world, there is a common understanding of what al-Sharia is, but there is no understanding of what fiqh is. In Iran, you have a different ideology. In Syria, you have a different ideology. ISIS has their own ideology. This is what I mean. So,
Yeah.
and this is very dangerous. And basically, it is now turning into dictatorship. And one aspect every dictator needs is the people to be afraid of something. And this is how you rule. You rule with this idea of fear. And now what al-Sharia is doing is trying to play the card of if I leave, Assad will come back to power. If I leave, Alawite will take over. If I leave,
Yeah.
well.
We
If
know this trick from many dictators in history, right?
yes. So
So
It's
you're saying that
very
this is not true, right, Manar? You're saying that this is a complete lie, that this is not a real danger, that Assad will come back and that the Alawites will take over Syria again.
it's impossible.
Yeah.
Where to come back? Where? Like this cannot be. Like in the last years, not even Alawite people were standing with the regime. I'm not saying even, I'm just like to clarify something here because like for someone who doesn't know us or doesn't know me might not know this. In the Syrian revolution, all the activists I worked with were Alawite from my city. And different groups, but big chunk of the activists I worked with were Alawite. The people who were smuggling fake IDs to people inside the city so they can leave were Alawite, just because they knew as well the regime wouldn't suspect much of them, because the regime is assuming if they're Alawite, they most probably on my side. But the Alawite who stood against the regime got killed in prisons as well. The regime didn't differentiate between Alawite and the Sunni when it comes to whoever standing against them. And 100%, one thing that's now being very much politicized and put aside, in Syria, you've got Damascus and Aleppo. 14 million Sunnis live in these areas, more or less. Those people were going for Assad's and saying we love you and every it's a fact. Like Damascus and Aleppo were heavily like the history is there, the videos are still there. It wasn't this revolution wasn't a Sunni versus Alawi, but it's the winning card for Assad's regime to turn it, hey, if I leave, they will come and kill you all. And
You mean
now
for Julani? Oh, you mean Assad used it and now Julani is going to use
Assad
it?
used it with the Alawite people, saying, hey, if I leave, all of you will get killed. And he played this card. And now Assad is having a laugh in Russia. He's seeing the massacres unfolding in the Alawites and feeling, yeah, I told you so. And this now, again, the card which is Al-Julani is playing. This policy of fear. So
Yeah.
that's all the propaganda which now is spreading. We can put it aside and just focus on the facts. We have a very alarming situation. Yeah.
So, Manar, what do you think we should do as people who care about this? Like, how do we get the truth out there? What is the... Because I feel there's so much, it's like, it's really hard to, like, I don't know how many channels I saw that's doing discussion like we are doing now, and we are small. Not a lot of people watch this, but I didn't like that is really is not driven by some agenda, that just want to try to understand what's going on.
Yeah. So
It's like
I have a small analogy. Like whenever I would watch a movie with my father, he would not understand what's going on, and like I don't know, half an hour or 45 minutes into the movie, he would always ask, "Can you tell me who's against who?" And he would expect like a very short and succinct answer. This guy is against this guy, and these are the good guys, and these are the bad guys. But I don't know, it seems to me like there's no simple answer about what's going on here. And then people outside get confused, and we don't know what to do and who to support and how to help. And there are a lot of people with good intentions who want to help, but we're all very confused. So maybe you can help us with this.
All right, I will do it the same way I did it in the Syrian Revolution time because it was very complex. And people would try to argue with me, but look, you have al-Nusra, you have people like Al-Julani, you have like. And it was true. There were lots of bad people, bad apples in the mix. But the main responsible is the head of the state. That's always this is what head of the state is. In countries which respect the human life, if someone get killed by a horrific accident or a mistake from the government, the head of states leave. And this is what should be. This is how it should be. And what I can say for people asking what to do or what to the Syria, after 50 years of Assad's era, needs a transitional justice. The same way Germany needed transitional justice after the Nazi time, where there were for all the...
what we're gonna need to have in Palestine as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, unfortunately, in lots of places in the world, but yes, unfortunately, such a bloody times we're living. But it's such a key thing, and this wasn't being done. This didn't happen. Lots of people who committed massacres on video, who were so close to Assad's regime before, are now free in the fourth season just because they paid al-Sharia buckload of money or shitload of money. And lots of them, we're not talking about one or two, we're talking about like very bad people from Assad's regime are now being free in the al-Sharia's Syria. And the Minister of Justice, which we have now, he got videos of him executing women in 2014 and 2015 for having sex, because women had sex. And those videos are documented. Now, what he says about it publicly, it was a different area. It was a different time. We had to do what we had to do. I don't believe we did anything wrong. And he's not even a lawyer nor a judge. So when people are questioning what to do, first you need the law. You need a state of law to be able to do anything. The biggest, whatever, like I even blame all the fake stories. Let's say Julani is the good guy here. I blame Al-Julani for not allowing media to film what happened. He is in control. If he cannot deal with the control, or if he cannot deal with the responsibility, fuck off. That's the problem with Assad. People are getting killed. This is why we do have a president. And what to do is protest any dictator.
Yes.
protest.
But do you think now, if like the Syrian people get it before this regime is established, maybe now it's the time to renew the revolution, you know, and say like, no, this is not what we wanted. Like if everyone gets to the street, if everyone, but it's, yeah, it's so scary. I get it. It's not something that's,
It is scary in Syria. It's a true.
yeah,
It was also scary in Syria when we went on the streets.
yeah,
And it's something I cannot say to anyone, go in Syria.
yeah,
Or just, I took my own responsibility. I've seen people getting killed in front of me. It's nothing. I just, at least from the outside, from the inside, when I was there, I was telling people, hey, let's go. But
yeah,
whatever happens on you happens on me. Here, now, tomorrow, as we have two anniversaries of the Syrian Revolution, the 15th and the 18th of March. And tomorrow of March, and tomorrow is 15th. Tomorrow we are holding a silent stand for the, or what do you call it, a visual stand for the people who died. And in Paris, there is another stand and a demo to remind people of the Syrian Revolution's goals. 2011, it was a brilliant time. How the people were much like it was beautiful. How the revolution started, and very bloody how it turned. But what to do is basically just stand for human rights. And when people are presenting these propaganda, which might be true, might be false, again, who's the one to be blamed?
Yeah, the people in charge. The
and I
people with
think I
power.
want to say to all the people, because I already received messages also from Syrian friends like, I don't know, don't say it's like Assad, it's not like Assad what's going now, because people want to believe things would be good. And I think we need to remember as people that we're on the side of morality, and if people are getting killed, we're on their side. Like, you know, it should be the basic starting point for everything. Like, and I see how your mind gets blurred, and it makes me also reflect upon my own biases, you know, like I want to be on the side of, and it also shows us that if, like, for example, in Palestine, there's not going to be a way of transitional justice, that people take responsibility on their crimes and put a trial, and there is recognition and reconciliation, we're going to see something similar. I'm sure of it, not because the Palestinian people are bad, but just because this is how it works when you don't dismantle oppression in a deep way, just turn to be other group that in power.
Yes.
And
Okay, guys, we promised ourselves and also our audience that we would be brief.
it's not brief.
We were not brief, but we did not go as long as usual if we wrap things up very soon. Okay, so maybe Manar, if you have like one last message that you want to tell our audience before we wrap things up.
I feel also within the Syrian community now, there is quite a division. Lots of people are supporting the new government, and big part of it is coming out of fear. Big part of it is coming out of an emotional pain and like physical pain, of course, which we lived for so many years and wasn't healed. And there is this idea of trusting a person just based on their religion, and basically dividing people based on their religion. And this always a recipe for disaster. Not just in Syria, in India, it's happening now. Muslim minorities are getting discriminated in a horrific way, just like the non-Muslim societies are getting discriminated in Syria. It is if you want to think of any group, if we look at China, it's also quite bad. In every place at the moment, there is a majority discriminating the minority in one way or another, and there is a
Yeah.
the right wing, and people fall into it very easily. You can hear people here speaking against the right wings, the German right wings, and then they would speak against different minority groups or gay people or homosexual people also. It just, we fall so easily into hating groups. This is what even I myself fall into it every once in a while. But whenever that happens, please let's just like take a step backward and reflect on, hey, what am I doing here? What am I really thinking here? Yes.
If I could make all humanity hear your message, it would be a better world, but we're trying.
We're
Yes.
trying.
Yeah.
Let's hope at least a few thousand people watch this and hear your message. Okay, so I think this is a good place to stop. I'm sure that we will have more conversations with you, Manar, because things are developing in Syria, and we keep getting confused again and again. It's really hard to understand, and maybe you can be our correspondent to all matters Syria, the Yalla correspondent for Syrian affairs. I don't know. But yeah, I'm sure we will have more conversations with you, Manar.
Lovely.
Elik, last remarks?
I don't know. Let's just keep it going. I think even if not too many people see it, it's still important thing what we do here.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. Thank you to the audience who listened to us. Thank you so much, Manar, for informing us about what's going on. Very, very important. And we hope things become much better, much quickly. We cannot be too optimistic, but we can keep the hope. And yeah, so just hoping for justice, peace, for democracy, true democracy.
Yeah, free Syria, free
Yeah, for
Palestine,
freedom for all the
freedom.
Levant.
All the Levant.
Yes.
And not just for one group or
Yes.
for all of the groups that are here. People know how to live together. It's just the people with power who wants to make them forget that.
Yes. So freedom for the Levant, and bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.